This is the new Razer Siren V3 Pro microphone, and it is packed with features. But is it actually a better sounding creator mic for the price, or are you mostly paying for extras you may or may not even use? Let's find out. What's up, friends? I'm Brian McDuff, aka BMac, and welcome to another video. Today we're taking a look at the Razer Siren V3 Pro, a microphone that promises pro-level audio with a pretty stacked feature set. But are those features that actually matter for creators, or are you mostly getting extras you may never even touch? First things first, I do want to give a thank you and a shout out to Razer for actually sending out a Siren V3 Pro for me to be able to check out and use. So Razer, thank you. But with that having been said, there is a lot to get to with this new microphone, so let's start things out with design. And this is where the Razer Siren V3 Pro starts making its argument, because before we even hear this thing, it's already starting to feel like Razer's trying to make the price make sense. Honestly, the build quality of the Siren V3 Pro is one of the very first things I noticed. This does not feel like a cheap, plasticky, lightweight creator mic because it has a zinc all-metal unibody, a matte black finish that's resistant to fingerprints and smudges, and some real weight to it. It's not awkward or oversized, but the kind of microphone where you pick it up and you think, okay, this feels pretty legit. And I think that's important here because at this price point, the build quality here is what's standing out and makes it feel a little bit more premium than I expected. In addition to that, the microphone itself has a clean, minimal, and yet professional kind of look that works both in person and on camera. And that's also where, you might have noticed it, this Razer Chroma lighting ring comes in. There is a Chroma RGB ring built into the mic between the removable pop filter and the lower metal section, and I actually really like how Razer handled it. It is powered by Razer Chroma RGB, so you can make it as subtle and tasteful as you want, or you could go full-on gamer setup and sync it with your other gaming peripherals and even your smart lighting. I have mine right now set to react to the volume levels, so you can see that every time I'm talking, it's going to start syncing up with the volume levels, which is pretty cool, but you have a whole bunch of different settings you could play around with within the Razer Synapse app. You could change the colors, change the effects, sync it up with other Razer gear. Razer Chroma is pretty darn awesome. And I personally like this. If the microphone's going to be in the shot anyway, the lighting gives it a little bit more visual purpose and flair than just the microphone being a microphone. That said, I do almost wish the lighting ring was a little bit more visible. Not obnoxiously bigger, but just a little bit more prominent, because right now it seems like it's a little on the thin side. It does also serve a practical purpose too, because if you happen to mute yourself by pressing the tap to mute sensor, the entire LED ring is going to turn red, giving you a clear visual indicator that the microphone is muted. I know they're common, especially on microphones like this, but I've accidentally muted myself on touch-to-mute microphones more times than I'd care to admit, and I could almost guarantee that that's going to happen to you at some point because it's already happened to me multiple times whenever I perhaps adjust the microphone. So personally, I still prefer a physical press in, press out mute button with a little bit more tactile confirmation. So even though the tap to mute sensor works and works well, it is something you have to be mindful of. But the stand here is way better than I was expecting it to be. A lot of microphones in this price range come with a stand, or not at all, but if they do come with a stand, a lot of times they're included just so the company could say, hey, look, microphone comes with a stand, but this one is actually genuinely useful and helpful. It's stable, it has a rubberized bottom with little rounded feet so that it doesn't wobble or slide around, plus the angle adjustment here is genuinely fluid, but at the same time, strong enough to hold the angle you actually want it to stay at. You could tilt it up, tilt it down, swivel it left or right. It feels smooth, precise, and easily of high quality. And that's what makes the stand feel like an actual part of the product, not just a temporary solution or cheap kind of add-on. I do think there are going to be times where you may need to or want to attach it to a boom arm instead, but even then, in the microphone itself on the bottom, you do have a 5/8 inch mount, plus an integrated 3/8 inch mount too, which pretty much gives you universal mount compatibility. Razer is also calling the included stand a stand with a built-in shock absorber and a vibration dampened arm, which is fair, but I'd still be careful with desk bumps. And I 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 still be careful with de it's not going to completely eliminate them. It is not like you could pound your desk or slam on your keyboard and expect the microphone to magically ignore all of those sounds. You still do have to be mindful that this is a tabletop mic. The removable pop filter helps with cleaning up your audio to hopefully lessen some of those plosives and also visually clean up the microphone. You do also have a manual gain control knob on the bottom of the microphone with up to 40 decibels of adjustable gain. But in my testing, I didn't really even use the physical gain dial because once I dialed in my gain settings in the Synapse companion app, I pretty much just left it alone. The mic monitoring volume control, however, which uses that same knob, makes way more sense to me because that's something you might actually want to adjust on the fly without having to open up the software. And also down here, that's where you will see your USB-C port, an XLR port, and a 3.5mm headphone jack on the bottom. And depending on how you position the microphone, those may be visible on camera, but that's typical of this type of design of microphone, so not really that surprising. The USB-C cable that comes with the microphone is also of high quality. In my opinion, it's long enough for my needs, and it's premium with a nice fabric exterior instead of the rather cheap-feeling rubber-coated cables that could sometimes come with microphones. So another nice touch from Razer there. And so overall, from a design perspective, the Siren V3 Pro makes a very strong first impression. The metal unibody, the included stand, mounting flexibility, RGB lighting, on microphone controls, an overall look that is more premium than I expected. There's a lot going on for this microphone. But at this point, that's still just the microphone making a case for itself before we've actually talked about its sound quality. So with that in mind, what is the sound quality like on this microphone? Because that is where the Siren V3 Pro has to prove that it's not just a well-built mic with a long feature list. First up, and for context, the audio you've been hearing throughout this entire video for my voice has been recorded directly with the Siren V3 Pro over USB-C using my own custom EQ settings and onboard DSP settings that are available to you right through the Razer Synapse companion app. So this isn't just me talking about how it sounds. What you're hearing is actually what this thing is capable of with just a few tweaks right out of the box. So as we go through the rest of this review, the question isn't just whether or not it sounds good, it's whether or not this is the kind of sound you could get because of the microphone itself or because of everything built around it. Out of the box, I don't think the Siren V3 Pro sounds bad. It is most certainly usable enough for a live stream, a video podcast, you name it, without immediately needing to change anything. Having said that, I personally wouldn't use this microphone right out of the box for its out-of-the-box sound for my own videos because, well, I think you're leaving a lot of what this microphone is capable of on the table if you're not taking advantage of those DSP settings. Inside the Siren V3 Pro, there is a 30mm dynamic capsule with a cardioid polar pattern, and I think Razer is clearly going for more of that close broadcast-style creator sound here, but with some reliance on placement, just like a lot of other dynamic microphones. Specs-wise, Razer is rating this microphone with a 50 Hz to 16 kHz frequency response and a 48 kHz or 96 kHz sample rate support. And that makes sense for what this microphone is. You want enough low end for body, but also enough presence and clarity for speech, and of course enough control to actually shape the microphone around your own voice without overcomplicating the setup. As you've seen throughout the entire video so far, I've been using this microphone probably 6 to 8, maybe sometimes 10 inches away. I think it still sounds good here, but you will want to remain pretty close to the microphone to make sure that you maintain body and fullness in your voice, which is easily achieved, again, with the included stand. The dynamic capsule built into this microphone is also going to help with room noise rejection compared to a lot of other condenser-style USB microphones, but do keep in mind that it's not magic. If your keyboard is right next to the microphone, or your mouse clicks are loud, or you've got a fan going right nearby, anything like that can still be picked up by the microphone. But even then, in my testing, you could use an AI noise remover within the Razer Synapse app, but I just kept it off. Not because it was bad, just because I found that I didn't really even need it. The removable pop filter also seems to be doing its job well enough for normal use because, well, as you can tell throughout the entirety of this video thus far, I haven't really heard a whole lot of obvious popping, plosives, or low-end blasts that need fixing. But that Razer Synapse app that I keep talking about is where this microphone starts becoming more than just your typical plug-and-play USB mic. If you're a beginner, you absolutely could keep things simple and literally just go through the microphone setup at the beginning of launching the app, and that's going to be a great starting place for most people. It'll get you close enough to where you need for most streaming, gaming, podcast, or even video call scenarios. But if you want to go deeper, the control within this app is definitely impressive, especially considering this microphone's price point. You get EQ adjustments, a high-pass filter, compressor, limiter, noise gate, AI noise remover, and other vocal effects all in one place, easily controllable and explainable if you want them. All this to say is that if you're newer to audio, Synapse can help you simplify the setup of this microphone in a very beginner-friendly way. But if you are more pro with your audio, and if you're like me and you want to take full control over that with what's available to you, you could go full pro with this microphone within the app as well. So instead of just boosting the bass and treble and calling it a day, I was able to scope the sound, and I think you could hear that the Siren V3 Pro responded well to that and brought out the version of my voice that I wanted. I did also use a compressor and a limiter to make the whole sound feel a little bit more controlled and consistent without needing a whole external processing chain. And I think that's really the whole idea here. The Razer Siren V3 Pro can be plug and play, but it's not limited to just being plug and play. You could absolutely treat this microphone as a beginner mic or a more serious creator mic and really dial in the EQ and DSP features yourself to make it fit your own voice. And considering the price of this baby, I like that Razer gives you both of those paths, even if not every single creator is going to use them the same way. Now, most of my testing on this microphone was done over USB-C because I wanted to test those DSP features, but XLR is where this microphone starts feeling less boxed in as your setup grows. And a pretty cool feature here, you do have the ability of actually using both those outputs, USB-C and XLR, at once, so that you're not locked into using just one of those connections at any given time. You could actually capture using the DSP features, or you could capture using a master XLR as, say, a backup signal. So eventually, if you wanted to be able to have a workflow where you have a backup option, or if you just wanted to eventually graduate into an XLR setup, again, you could grow with this mic and it'll allow you to do that. But the last major audio feature here is going to be 32-bit float support, which I actually had set up through Synapse on Windows and then using another audio recording platform to be able to capture my sound. And I think the result is actually impressive, but mostly probably only if you fully understand what it does. To be clear, 32-bit float by itself is not auto gain, and it's not just gonna magically turn down your volume when you yell. It's more of a recording safety feature. Basically, with normal fixed bit audio, if your level gets too loud and you clip, the top of the waveform can get chopped off, and that's where distortion is basically baked in. With 32-bit float, however, there's a lot more headroom, so if during your recording your voice suddenly spikes, as I sometimes tend to do, you'll actually be able to pull that back down afterward in post to still have a clean signal to work with. So naturally, as you could hopefully tell, 32-bit recording can be very helpful if you laugh, yell, get excited, or don't always speak at exactly one perfectly consistent volume. For streaming though, do not treat it like some magical never clip microphone. OBS and whatever platforms you're going to be using are going to take your mic, mix it and encode it, and then send it live to a platform. So in that instance, you still need to keep your levels controlled. But Razer does also rate the Siren V3 Pro for up to 125 decibels max XPL over USB and 150 decibels over XLR, so it is built to handle louder sources better than you might expect from a USB-first creator microphone. That doesn't mean you could ignore your gain staging, but between the SPL handling, 32-bit float support over USB through Synapse on Windows, and the onboard DSP controls, it does feel like Razer is trying to make this microphone more forgiving for real creator use. And hopefully with Synapse coming to Mac, you're also going to get the same level of support when using this microphone on Mac machines. But now that we pretty much talked about everything, the build, the sound, the Synapse companion app, USB-C, XLR, DSP, and 32-bit float, this brings us back to the main question. Is the Razer Siren V3 Pro actually a better sounding creator mic for the price? Or are you mostly paying for extras you may or may not use? My answer is this. I think it's a better sounding creator mic for the price, but mainly if you're going to use this microphone for the extras that actually make it special. Out of the box, we already said it. This microphone sounds good, but when you really dial it in through Synapse, it can and does do a lot better in terms of sound quality. And that's where I think this microphone really starts to separate and justify itself. You're not just paying for one thing here. You're paying for the build quality, the stand, the USB-C connection and XLR flexibility, the onboard DSP, the deep app control, 32-bit float, and a microphone that can still grow with you while your setup grows. You are paying for multiple things here in one package. If all you want is the cheapest plug-and-play USB microphone possible, this is probably a lot more microphone than you need. But if you're a streamer, a podcaster, a YouTuber, a gamer, any kind of creator who wants control over their audio, especially with how their voice sounds, or if you at least want to grow with a microphone, the Razer Siren V3 Pro is an excellent microphone to check out. It has a lot to offer you for its price point, and it covers you from simple plug-and-play audio all the way to more pro-level adjustments. So yes, you are paying for extras, but I think it's the extras here that you're actually going to appreciate and maybe even grow into, because you're getting a lot of flexibility here and a lot of pro-level features for the money. As always, for the latest deals, prices, promos, and information for the Razer Siren V3 Pro microphone, you can of course always head to my affiliate link, bmac.link/V3Pro, or of course, as always, there's going to be clickable links in the video description box and in the comment section below, so check those out. It is now time for me to go offload my audio and video footage into my video editor. Hopefully I didn't get too loud. If I did, it's no big deal. I got that 32-bit float, baby. I will see you guys in my next video.